Hello, everyone, and welcome to Take Me Back to the 90s podcast, where we journey back to the golden era of 90s. Today's episode is extra special. We are in conversation with someone who defined Indian television in the 90s. Back in the 90s, she gave us Tara, India's first soap opera on satellite television. She's a powerful voice, storyteller, a producer, a writer, and a change maker. Please welcome Vinta Nanda.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be on your platform.
Before we speak about your path-breaking show, Tara, how did your journey begin and where did you grow up? And was filmmaking always your dream?
Okay, so I was born in a city called Jammu in J&K. My father is from Jammu and Kashmir, and that's where I was born in my grandparents' home. And because my father was in the life insurance corporation, he was getting posted to different cities. So I grew up in a very diverse set of cities, from Jammu to Amritsar, Kota in Rajasthan, then subsequently Jalandhar in Punjab, then Chandigarh in Punjab, then again went to Indore in Madhya Pradesh and Ajmer in Rajasthan a second time. So for me, it was like growing up in very different circumstances. Every 2, 3 years, one was moving to another city, uh, creating a new world. And with my siblings, I had a very, very close bonding because we were the only people, four of us, who were very constant. We were there with each other all along because every 3 years, our lives took a dramatic turn as we moved to a new city, new school, made new friends, and all of that. And after I graduated in Chandigarh, basically, I came to Mumbai because my mother is from Bombay. Post partition, her family had moved to Bombay, and she grew up here. So she was very keen that we are three sisters and one brother. So as sisters especially, she was very keen that we move to Bombay. She was very keen that we experience the liberation and the freedom that you feel in this city. And we are free to make our careers without fear of safety and other things that happen around women in North India. So we had a very protected kind of growing up phase, but we were always very brought to tune in with, being free, being made to make our own choices. So when I came to Bombay post doing my graduation, I was 19 years old. I just graduated, and yeah. So in my head, I mean, I was very clear that it had to be media and storytelling because from my youngest days that I can remember, I've been a storyteller, whether as a writer in school, college, all the kind of platforms that you find. Whether at home, I was always called, like, my pet name is Bebu. So, it was like BBC. It was my pet name in my house because it was Bebu Broadcasting Corporation. So I was a very crazy observer of things in a very different kind of with a very different kind of lens. So I grew up, being the youngest sister, I was like pampered, and telling stories became my, way of entertaining everybody. So this BBC tag led me to continue wanting to tell stories, my observation, my view of things and all. So yes, when I came here, I was looking for a job, and obviously, my first move was to go to Sapphire's for my communications course. I managed to get through the test, but I couldn't get through the interview because, again, Bombay, when you enter, it's a very overwhelming city.
Yeah.
So, in that 1 year that I was kind of adjusting to a life from Chandigarh to Bombay, I was still like quite uncertain about things. Subsequently, I tried to get into the Times of India training program as a journalist. There too, the same thing happened. I went through the exam and I flunked the interview. Then I was like at large as to what I should do. Obviously, my family was all around me. My mom's family was all around me, and they were all kind of making suggestions. And suddenly, out of the blue, at one afternoon luncheon at my aunt's place, I happened to meet the very, very well known and one of the most important artists of the progressive artist movement, Prafulla Dhanukar.
Okay.
So she basically looked at me, and then generally the discussion went to what do you want to do and stuff like that. So I told her, look, I don't know anything but how to tell stories.
Yeah.
And I have to find a way to get into that world where I'll be able to tell stories.
Mhm.
So she immediately, it kind of clicked in her mind and she put me in touch with Shobha Doctor, who had just finished producing a show called Hum Log.
Oh,
And yeah, and she was making another show called Titliyan at that point in time.
yeah.
It was for Doordarshan. At that time, Doordarshan was the only entertainment channel.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then Shobha Doctor put me on the production of as a team member in the production department of Titliyan, which was just to go on the floor.
Mhm.
And Titliyan was directed by Nadira Babbar,
Oh, nice.
the doyen theater personality. So to me, it was like heaven on earth. I mean, I just kind of tapped into just exactly what I wanted to do. So yeah, by the time those 13 episodes of Titliyan happened, it was 6 months. In that 6 months period, I was pretty much part and parcel of that whole world and that whole universe. And Nadira ji, whom we call Baji, was doing theater. So I kind of just gradually followed her wherever she went. I just became her shadow and I would follow her wherever she went. So when she was doing theater, I became a part of a theater group. So I was mostly behind the scenes. Acting wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I would fill in for roles if say somebody didn't turn up or somebody had a problem because I knew all the dialogues of all her plays, so every time there was a problem she'd just put me there and say, okay, you do it. So it was great fun, and for the next 5 years I was with Ekjut and I was part of the theater group. And for making a living, by then I had also found my feet. I'd found my grip on the entertainment world. So I had a little job for about a year with Shekhar Kapoor. I was assisting him. He was making lots of ad films in those days. So I was like, a part of his direction team. So I was working with him. I think must have done about 4 or 5 ads. In those days, they were all made on film
Yeah.
and on celluloid. So I worked with him, and then when I then he put me in touch with a couple of guys who were making a TV serial, which never happened, but it was called Hotel. It was supposed to get made, but then through him I met these guys, Mainak Trivedi, Raman Kumar, and people. And Raman was looking for a AD for Ye Jo Hai Zindagi,
Oh,
and that comedy show.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. So I became the AD, third AD on his show, on this particular show, Ye Jo Hai Zindagi.
Amazing.
So then from third, I became a second assistant, then first assistant, and then Raman was making movies. He was doing Parbat Ke Us Par, and then there was Ramesh Talwar Saab who was making Tera Naam Mera Naam. So, we were a bunch of these ADs who would get passed around as and when the directors needed them between their friends groups. So I was an AD for almost like from till about 1988. Between
Yeah.
84 and 1983 and 1988, this is exactly what I did. From Titliya to assisting all these amazing guys who were making amazing television shows, amazing films, everything. And by 1988, I kind of felt that, okay, I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
And I started my production house, Track Cinema,
Yeah.
in which we did a lot of short films.
Yeah.
I got a very really good slate of films on immunization, women and child welfare from UNICEF in
Yeah.
those days. So
Yeah.
there were about 15 to 20 such short films we made.
Yeah.
That time, Doordarshan used to have a 9 o'clock slot for the news.
Yeah.
So my films would come like 1 minute before the news would start. So almost the whole of India got familiarized with those short films that I had made. And they were mostly by TV stars giving messages on immunization. The campaign for immunization and maternal and child health was very aggressive in those days.
Yeah.
So my production house took off. I took off as a writer and a director. We made another show for Doordarshan called Atwa Rang, which I directed a couple of episodes of. And then before we knew it, I mean, obviously we didn't expect it to happen, but before we knew it, there was this whole revolution called satellite television. It was the 90s, early 90s, and the decade in which you were born, as you tell me, and which is very close to your heart because your childhood rests in that decade. So this huge revolution that came in the 1990s, that's 90, 91, 92, was like, I think it was God sent for my whole generation of creators. Because suddenly, from a very, narrow industry which had very little space for everybody, There was this whole new universe that exploded in everybody's faces, which required professionals.
Yeah.
And therefore, I became a part of that whole wave. And I got Tara to produce from ZTV, which was a brand new channel. So
Yeah.
that production basically is what started the whole long trail after Tara. I made, with Tara, in fact, I made around 5 or 6 more shows. Subsequently, there was, eventually, by the time I finished Millie in 2006, I had made 16 long running shows. All of them were super hits. So it had been a great, great stint for me.
That has been an amazing journey, ma'am.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
Tara was the first Indian like that was the first soap opera, right? And it
Yes.
explored subjects like divorce, career, love, friendship.
Yeah.
What made you decide to write on such strong subjects? And back in the 90s, I think it was bit difficult, uh, to bring such bold subjects to, celluloid, to, television.
So, first to correct you, Tara wasn't the first serial. Not the first soap opera, because there had already been Hum Log, Bunyad, Khandan, Mahabharat and Ramayana had already happened on Doordarshan. Shanti was happening simultaneously to Tara. So it was just the continuation of Doordarshan exploding into a much, much wider space. And Tara was one of the first soap operas on satellite television.
Yeah.
And yeah, coming to that, why you're saying, actually, let me also correct you on that. It was a much better and easier time to speak about these subjects and feminism, because at that time, women really had freedom, which they don't have today. I
Yeah.
mean, the times that I was growing up in, Tanu,
Yeah.
it was a very, very expansive moment for women in the world. And therefore, Tara was just a reflection of my own life. I was living that life. I was the one who was, living with my friends in an apartment on rent. And that entire story, as it unfolded, was the fictionalization and dramatization of my own story. And that was a freedom we were experiencing, something which I feel very sad about now, because I don't think even in Bombay, women are as safe as they used to be in my time during the 90s.
Yeah.
And there was no word like feminism,
Yeah.
but we were truly feminists. We were like living, breathing feminists in those days. Women were coming into like boardrooms, women were coming into the higher positions in life. It all turned around and reversed at the end of the 90s. That's when the struggle for women started. Because the 90s was that golden period in which we were embraced, we were welcomed, we were brought in, we were celebrated as women creators. And which is why there was no check, no balances, there was no gatekeeping. I don't even remember once when the channel turned around and told me that don't do it this way, do it that way. The freedom that I had in creating that show is the reason for the success of that show.
Was about to ask, did you feel like you were doing something risky? you know?
No, there was nothing, because people were so open to the ideas of freedom. You'll probably, I mean, your knowledge will tell you those were the days of economic liberalization. Those were the days when women and men and everybody was traveling and seeing the world, and being able to explore different opportunities, to look at life in all different kinds of ways. The advertising industry was booming, the television industry was booming, the other industries were all doing very well. And women, more and more women were joining the workforces. And there was just never any question mark on what you were saying and how you were saying. And there's nothing immoral about what we were telling in Tara, right? We were just talking about 4 women living in a city and experiencing lives, making mistakes, finding the courage to own up to their mistakes, and finding the ways of getting out of challenges that they faced. Now, that, if you kind of summarize that in today's context, women still feel the same challenges.
Yeah.
Women still make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there's a huge silence upon it.
True.
When I was growing up, there was no silence. If I made a mistake, it was very easy for me to own up to making a mistake, whether it was to do with business, whether it was to do with relationships, whether it was to do with any other aspect of my life. It was all right, you know, to be a human being. Unfortunately, now it's not only for women, for men also, it's become extremely suffocating.
But why do you think, uh, that has changed now? What is
That
that?
has changed. Yeah, I'll tell you why. I think basically what my understanding of it is that the entertainment storytelling world expanded very, very fast. And the urban storyteller, you can say, very emancipated and had seen the world in a very different context. And somehow as entertainment spread in the rural and the rural belts and in the smaller towns, I don't think society was prepared to deal with facing that kind of freedom and independence. So the backlash started from there. I mean, when those cultures and those uh, societies started to feel uncomfortable to
Yeah.
let their women out and experience the same freedom that the girls in Tara were doing. And that's when people said, like, go back to Saas Bahu, go back to the home, go back to the family dramas. And that's when the turn came and everything became like that. So instead of, I think the mistake that our policies and our all our decision makers made at that time was, which they should have like looked at that discomfort in a very different way. And I can also tell you this only in retrospective, because at that time I was part of the wave, even I didn't realize what was going on. That if our society needs to change and if our society needs to develop, if our society and culture needs to evolve, then that tunnel of discomfort, it will have to go through at least once, right?
Yeah.
And when it was going through, it should have been allowed to go through that discomfort, because change comes never comfortably. Change comes through discomfort. What happened in the bargain by making them thinking about their comfort and their acceptance, we ended up suffocating them further and pushing them further back in time. Because storytelling essentially changes the world, changes the way people think. And television has been like the biggest change maker in the whole world. If you see South America, if you see America, if you see Europe, they have changed. Cultures have changed and evolved because of television storytelling. In India, we actually throttled it, we suffocated it, and we kind of, killed it.
But I see that now Gen Z and today's generation, they are actually going back and watching old shows and movies,
Yes,
and they're actually relating to it and praising it. So
yes.
why can't we now like recreate that magic again?
We should. I mean, what will eventually happen is what the audiences demand, right? So OTT did happen about a few years ago in 2018 and 2019. And you saw that storytelling emerge, which was happening on television in the 90s. You
Yeah.
saw that storytelling emerge. For instance, like, I mean, I haven't seen Siyara, but some people come and tell me, and gives me a lot of pride. In fact, it gives me a big kick that a lot of the what was considered very radical in White Noise, which I made in 2004, many of those scenes are there in Sayara,
Oh,
you know? So
wow.
I feel very, very proud of that. I feel like, okay, my signature, which was brought way back 25 years ago, is on this time as well.
Still
Like,
relevant.
for instance, yeah, like Call Me Bay, for instance. I mean, I was seeing that show.
Yeah.
Suddenly in front of me, scenes from Tara unfolded. That
Yeah.
whole story about those girls living in a house with the water trickling down from the ceiling was actually a whole story in Tara. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even there I felt so happy and proud that, okay, look, I've written these things and they are now influencing this generation. So, in a way, it's like very exciting that all these times are really exciting.